So the other day, my sister came over, and just for fun, we decided to go through my perfume collection. And I showed her this one bottle that smelled so much like my grandma's lipstick. My grandma was a nurse and would always put red lipstick on when she worked the night shift. It smelled powdery and delicate, but it was also powerful. Like someone who really knew what she was capable of and wasn't afraid to show it. We lived in a multi generational house, so I remember being really little, tucked into bed. And Grammy was up, wide awake, dressed in her crisp white nurse's uniform, her short, dark brown, permed hair perfectly in place. So every time we sprayed that perfume, it was almost like a time machine. It felt like we were with her again, which is really special because she passed away a few years ago. On some level, scents have pulled us all back into a memory. Maybe you felt it while cooking a family recipe, or maybe when you smell the scent in the air during your favorite time of year. For me, perfume really brings me back to a time and place that I want to revisit. So let's talk about that connection today. Why we feel a biological pull back to a certain time when we smell certain things, and why perfume is inherently emotional. To explain all this, let's first dive into some of the history of perfume. So, the very first recorded perfumer was a woman named Taputi, and she was a Mesopotamian chemist back in the second millennium BC. We don't know a lot about her, but an ancient tablet notes her perfume as being fit for a king. And perfumes back in that time were more similar to incense than fragrances we know today. And they were probably used more in religious ceremonies than in daily life. It wasn't until later, during the height of the Egyptian Golden Age, that perfume would become more widespread. Ancient Persia was credited with the first non-oil based perfume, which essentially is just a step closer to fragrance as we know it in modern times. And on the Silk Road to ancient China, perfume was used as a sort of trading item between courtly nobles. In medieval Europe, they adopted perfume practices from the Far and Middle East to produce their own stock of fragrances. And during the Black Plagues and the like, they even tried to mask the pestilence of death with scent combinations like cloves and cinnamon, or even vinegar. Fun fact, that's why those doctors wore those beak masks, to pack those beaks with herbs, because it was supposed to ward off the pestilence of death. The perfumes that we see today, however, have obviously changed a lot, not just with the use of synthetics, but also in the marketing that goes into them. And a lot of people are still studying and trying to figure out why we feel the way we feel about fragrance. There are studies on aromatherapy, the idea that scent affects our mood and well-being. There's also aromacology, which explores the psychology that may exist behind fragrances and why they evoke so much emotion. And according to chemist Joe Schwartz, smell, more than any other sense, has the capacity to vividly bring back the past. Scientists call this olfactory bonding. And this essentially means that memory, emotion, and creativity are likely linked to your sense of smell. There are even cases when students were exposed to certain scents while they were studying, and then when they took the exam, they had better recall when those same scents were present. All that is to say is that when our brain gets a hold of a scent, it tends to assign it meaning. Like when you feel hungry if you smell bacon, or if you feel uneasy when you smell an ex's cologne. And here's a somewhat dated, but nevertheless fun fact. A 1995 study on the emotional distinctiveness of odor-evoked memories detailed how scent memories are even more emotionally charged than other memories. For example, the study pointed out that when we smell an old lover's perfume, we tend to feel more emotional than, say, if we were to just hear the name of their perfume. So, because fragrance connects us to memory, it's inherently emotional. That's why we have such a connection to certain smells or even certain fragrances. And a great cologne or perfume doesn't just help us project a certain image. It can also be quintessential to defining oneself. The people selling perfume to us know this, And you can see it in the intense marketing behind fragrance. Nearly every perfume commercial has a beautiful person with no responsibilities, surrounded by stunning luxury, or even turning into a centaur on a beach. Like, we all know that wearing a perfume is not going to create these alternate realities for us. But on the other hand, I would really, really like it to. And that's the feeling that I get when I spray a favorite perfume. It's definitely aspirational and gives me the confidence to thrive. It's like hope in a bottle. For me, Miss Dior Absolutely Blooming, which I sadly heard is being discontinued, holds a special place in my heart because it's the first perfume I ever bought for myself. And when it comes to memory, I just think about all the time I spent researching, sampling, saving for that perfume. It was quintessentially me. It was aspirational, but not in a way that wasn't true to who I am. And especially because it's ultra feminine. It has this fruity, flirty opening, but then there are darker notes underneath, which I felt like I could really relate to. And something else that stands out in my mind was where I was in my career when I actually bought that perfume. I had been a makeup artist for 10 years, went back to school in my early 30s, and became a journalist. And I had my very first sort of career launching job at a public radio station. At that time, I was feeling kind of down on myself. I felt like maybe I didn't fit in. You know, the people who were there, their education wasn't the same as mine. They were younger than me. It was a bit of a difficult experience, not because of the people who I was surrounded by, but because of my own insecurities. And part of that was me wanting to be taken seriously, which meant maybe not wearing as much makeup, maybe not dressing as colorfully, maybe not wearing a fragrance. A person can only keep that up for so long when it's true to who they are. So I sort of said, forget it, and I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to wear makeup. I'm going to wear fragrance. And fragrance wasn't something that I had really worn before, but it did still feel like part of a beauty arsenal that I wanted to expand on. So I started wearing Miss Dior Absolutely Blooming. I was very insecure about it. I didn't know how much to put on. I was afraid that I would choke out the room. I was thankfully told by a friend who would definitely tell me if I was, wearing too much, that I wasn't. But it really helped me feel like myself at work. It helped perk me up at 5 a.m. when I had to read through the news and look for pitches during the day. And it also helped me in moments of quiet when I would just sit and look at the beautiful bottle with its beautiful bow and pink juice and just take that little bit of time for myself to rest my mind. But suffice to say, Miss Dior Absolutely Blooming takes me back to a time where I had a lot of challenges and I got through them. So thank you very much, Miss Dior, for being a part of my journey and for opening me up to a whole other world of perfume. It's a big part of my life now. And for better or worse, a lot of money has been spent. I have a perfume for date night. I have a perfume for going on vacation. I have a perfume when I want to signal to my body that it is time to go to sleep, a perfume that I find really calming. All of that brings me to another point. We can really intentionally use perfume to evoke a certain moment in time for us, to evoke certain feelings, and to bring us back to memories that we want to revisit. Say if I wanted to go on vacation, I would take a certain perfume with me to wear during that entire time. So when I'm not in a vacation-like environment, I can feel like I'm there on vacation, if that makes sense. For example, when I went to Colorado, I saw snow fall for the first time. I knew it was going to be cold. I knew it was going to be cozy. So I bought this very vanillic type of fragrance with me that was very, very cozy and warm. Now, whenever I spray that perfume, it takes me back to that vacation in Colorado, even if I'm not in a very cozy environment. Now, on the flip side, if I'm going through a difficult time, I tend to stay away from fragrance altogether. And that's because I really don't want to be reminded later of when my ceiling caved in because of the rain or when I was grieving the loss of someone. And of course, we don't always know when we're going to be having a good day or a bad day. Maybe you're wearing your favorite scent and that's the day you get laid off, or that's the day that you have to break up with someone or someone breaks up with you. And you don't want to be reminded of that every time you spray that fragrance. But if that happens and you really want to salvage your relationship with that scent, just remember we all have the power of perspective. Yes, we tend to remember the negative things in life. The bad stands out a lot more than the good. But if you continue to have good times, if you continue to have great times with friends, a wonderful day walking around and look at nature, wear that scent during those times. And the more you wear it during the good times, the more that fragrance will remind you of the good times. And I'm really glad to have several scents that remind me of places and people I love, like my grandma. Whenever I want to be with her again, all I have to do is spray that lipstick scented fragrance, and she's there with me. I invite you to take a few moments today to seek out your own scent memories. Maybe it's the scent of your mother's perfume. Maybe it's the smell of freshly baked cookies during the wintertime. Whatever it is, let scent be your time machine and just see where it takes you. That's all for now. If you liked this video, then give it a like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me on the YouTube algorithm. Until next time, take care.